Good morning. It is Training Tuesday. My name is Suzanne Castle. Every Tuesday, I join you right here, right now, as you're checking in, live or on replay, #replay, just to give you a few little tidbits to make your life a little better, to reset your mindset, to rise up in leadership. And this month, all month long, I've been talking about fear and going to continue. It goes really well, right? It's October. It's all the creepy crawly things. And I thought it was time that we tackle fear from a slightly different place. You can see behind me, I'm in my kitchen because out front, there's a lot of yard work and street work happening with a water main break. And so it's really loud. So I want to apologize now if you're hearing some feedback noise. Doing the best I can, got in the furthest recesses of the house as I possibly can, but I'm glad that you're here and I want to dive in. But first, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below if you're watching live or on replay. I'd love to see where you're tuning in. So let's jump right in, shall we? Fear is such a huge topic, and it's a topic that keeps us stuck, that keeps us paralyzed from making good decisions. And today specifically, if you saw the title, it's ego and fear. Oh my, right? All the big yuckies. And so I want to talk about why your ego loves fear and what you can actually change. I think it's important to understand that. And first, are you aware that your ego loves fear? Like I'm serious when I ask that question. Are you aware that your ego loves, thrives, is incredibly lit up by fear? It thrives on it. And your ego actually thrives not only on fear, but on stress and anxiety. Newsflash, right? Yes. However, when you're holding on to fear, it does prevent you from growing as a person, from being the best version of yourself that you can be, from living into the success that you're dreaming into being, and honestly, from finding true happiness. And that's why it's important to understand how our ego gets lit up by fear and how we can change that. But here's a really important note that I want you to know. It's not your ego's fault, by the way. It's not your ego's fault. You might have to repeat that to you all the time. It is not your ego's fault. It is honestly just trying to protect you. Your ego is trying to protect you from fear and anxiety and stress and all the things that are crashing in around you. So what are we going to do about that? Well, let's learn more about a surprising revelation on how your ego is thriving within the fear space. So first, what is ego? You know, I'm throwing that word around, but I want to be sure that we understand what it is. The ego is actually the part of your being. That's it. The ego is a part of your being. The ego is responsible for reacting to the outside world. And your ego shapes how you see your outside world. So your ego controls how you're viewing yourself in relation to others. And I think it's important to note that you can actually control this with this, right? And the first way that we do that is we notice our ego self-talk, not just self-talk, but ego self-talk. The self-talk can be positive and it can be negative, right? And so we want to feel into what we're actually experiencing and feeling deep down internally and understand which pathway it's driving us down. So you might see the ego come through in statements such as, I'm not good enough. Anybody been saying that lately? I'm not good enough to do this. I can't do that challenge. I don't know that I have what it takes. That's your ego and fear talking, right? There might be, I'm not smart enough. I don't have the capabilities. But on the other hand, you might see your ego rising up in thoughts like, I'm perfect, I'm capable, I'm beautiful, I'm enough. Which one of those do you want your ego saying back to you? I'm not good enough or smart enough, or I'm capable, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, I'm enough. You see, the ego uses I and me in self-talk conversations. So when you're trying to figure out if it's your ego talking, check yourself. Is this a me statement? Is this an I statement? Then yes, you're in ego land, right? And when you're in ego land, you have to live by the land rules. So what we want to do is we want to pay attention to fear because our ego connected to the outside world, right? Remember that? Your ego is connected to your outside world and how you view yourself. So fear is a prominent part of that. It's a prominent resident of ego land. So you might be afraid to look foolish. You might be scared to do something new. You may fear talking to others. If your ego is fragile, it will get hurt easily along the way. And let's be honest, we all have a part of us that has a fragile ego. We may say we don't, but again, that's our fear talking. But it is naturally a part of humanness to have a little bit of a fragile ego. So let me give you an example of this. Someone may say something that hurts your feelings. So you immediately shut down. And then you don't want to talk to that person again. Like in a nanosecond, you've made all that decision. My feelings are hurt. I need to remove myself from the situation. I'm never going to talk to that person again. right? But that is not maturity talking, and that's definitely not a way to be in the world. This is your ego in action. It is rising up. You're hurt. You're scared of hearing them say something negative against you. You're like, you know what? I am removing myself from this situation. Your ego loves fear. And it's not your ego's fault because it's trying to protect you. And so it's beneficial to recognize the fear, learn to adjust it when necessary, and then work through the process. And I really am a big believer in psychological fear understanding, meaning that in some situations, fear is necessary. It can preserve you. You've heard me say a lot that when we were in our evolutionary stage, right, our ego was like, you're getting eaten by the bear, you're getting eaten by the bear, you're getting eaten by the bear. So you run. You run, you run, you run. You look, am I going to get eaten by the bear or the Tyrannosaurus Rex or whatever it might be, right? Okay, your ego's trying to protect you. It's trying to save you. So, but that fear that comes from your ego, it could be psychological, which is not necessary. So fear of the unknown or being in a dark alley, completely normal. And you need to be paying attention to that. This is your gut way down deep inside of you trying to save you from a dangerous situation. I'm going to get eaten by a bear. But on the other hand, fear of talking to a safe crowd at a conference is your ego talking. Psychological fear can be damaging. It can be intrusive. It can be distracting. It can lead to anger and resentment. So we want to understand when we are in fear, actual fear space, right? I'm going to get eaten by a bear. Or this is psychological fear, and is it really fear or is it worry? You see, it's important to recognize fear and worry. Fear and worry, they often appear together. So anxiety will lead you to fear. It's just an easy place to be. And vice versa. If you're living in an anxious space, it's really easy to be fearful about situations. The two are inextricably linked, and so sometimes it's really hard to separate them. However, if you recognize that worry might be the real issue at hand, then fear won't have a chance to take over because you can control how much you worry, believe it or not. So fear doesn't have a chance to stop you. You may have seen a stat that I shared that 85% of what you actually worry about never comes to pass. 85%. So do you want to be spending all of that emotional energy on 85% of the things that are never truly going to happen? Right? So we need to recognize that if worry is the real issue, then we don't allow fear to take over. We're like, okay, so what is this thing I'm worried about? What are the possible outcomes here? What could be the worst possible scenario? And then we understand what we're dealing with. And so we need to learn to be present first and foremost. By learning to be present, observing your fear from a distance, getting high, being like, is this fear or is this worry? You can control it. Awareness is honestly the key to conquering fear created by your ego. Awareness is the key to conquering fear created by your ego. So once you're aware of how your ego is creating fear and anxiety, then you observe it. Hey, looky here. Look what's happening. I'm living in Fear Island again. And then now what do I need to do to shape myself differently? How do I show up in this? Is this healthy fear? It's trying to keep me safe. Or is this, I'm just feeling like I don't want to do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. All those ego statements all over again, right? So be present in that. I want to assure you that you do have the power to stop the fear in your mind. It's important to remember that all the negative scenarios in your head don't necessarily happen in real life. They can stay as imaginary issues. And it's okay. You can be like, hey, brain, thank you for dreaming up all the possibilities of what might happen. But guess what? 85% of the time or more, they're never going to materialize and they're never going to cause you heartache. And honestly, fear does not have to take over your life. Say that again if you need to. Fear does not have to control my life. You can learn to control it. You can learn to be happy when you understand, is this fear or is this worry? Is this danger or is it just, I'm a little worried about this, right? So one of the things that we deal with at Verve, you've been hearing me talk about that. I did a Verve in-person event about a month ago, and I'm doing the virtual version coming up if you weren't able to be in the room. And we talk a lot about fear and how fear keeps us paralyzed in our life, in our business, from making decisions, from dreaming our vision into being. And we spend a little time understanding what that is and then creating our own personal map on how we go forward from that. So if you haven't yet signed up, it's super inexpensive. You're getting all sorts of swaggy goodness, and I want you in the room. Right? It's like 5 hours. You can make that happen on Saturday, right? So there's the link below. Check it out, save your seat, and let's get you moving ahead. Okay, this was Training Tuesday. I'll see you next Tuesday right here, same time, same day. Have a great week. Bye-bye.